Right now, over $84 trillion is moving from one generation to the next. Times from Bloomberg, the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal are all talking about, and some are even saying over 100 trillion with a T, $1 trillion are going to pass hands from one generation to the next over the next 25 years. The reason and why it's so important for us to talk about this today is if you do not plan accordingly, your family's wealth may end up in the hands of the state through taxation or family members that you never intended. Some of the biggest pitfalls in estate planning is failing to plan. If you do not put together a basic estate plan or anticipate some of these costs down the road, your family, because it's not about you, right? You're passed away. So your family may miss out on thousands, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars of your estate and your wealth that you built in your lifetime that will get transferred to the state in taxation if the estate is large enough to the federal government as well, or just to attorneys and accountants and third parties who have to help you and your family administer the estate. Some of the biggest quick pitfalls are failing to have a last will and testament, failing to update beneficiary designations, not utilizing in the state of Florida a ladybird deed. A ladybird deed is a way for property to pass in Florida from one person to the next by operation of law. It is amazing how many people in Florida today are still not aware because it's not a law. There is no statute in Florida that governs a ladybird deed. There is only case law that has validated the concept. So if an attorney like myself isn't telling you about a ladybird deed, then you might not ever hear about one. And ladybird deeds are really important because in Pennsylvania, for example, there's no such thing as a ladybird deed. You may be able to do an enhanced life estate deed in Pennsylvania, but importantly and unfortunately, Pennsylvania has inheritance tax. So just because you've done a life estate does not mean that you are avoiding inheritance tax later. That's the importance of additional, more complicated estate plans, such as revocable living trusts. A revocable living trust is one of the few ways for you and your family to prepare a way to avoid the majority, if not all, of probate, is through a revocable living trust. Now, another pitfall is not having a durable power of attorney and not updating who you are going to designate as your surrogate for your healthcare surrogate and not keeping your powers of attorney updated. Remember, these estate plans should be reviewed and should be updated over and over. So we're about to go through, over the next 10 to 15, 20 years, one of the largest transfers of wealth in the history of mankind. And the reason for that is because we're having an elderly population through science and technology and advances in healthcare who are benefiting from longer lives. They've been able to work longer and they're living longer, so they've accumulated much more wealth in their lifetime. Now remember, estate planning has nothing to do with the billionaires. Sure, they're doing probably very complex estate planning, but really this is about average folks like you and me trying to figure out how our loved ones can get the biggest piece of the pie. A proper estate plan, in my opinion, is where you minimize the amount of costs going to third parties. You minimize the amount of taxes paid to the state if you're in an inheritance tax state, and you've ensured that your loved ones are receiving what you've intended them to receive, and you're minimizing paying all these costs and fees and expenses. In our firm alone, for example, we charge 5% of the gross value of the estate. So if an individual didn't have beneficiary designations on their bank accounts, if an individual didn't set up a trust, if an individual didn't do proper deed planning and preparation through a ladybird deed or some other type of vehicle, then Us as a firm, our fee is 5% of the gross value of the estate. That can be a lot of money. And so if you plan appropriately, that 10, 15, 20, 25, $30,000 that would go to a firm can then go into your family's pocket. Now I know I'm shooting myself in the foot because at the end of the day, that's less work for me and my firm. But my goal with this channel and my goal throughout this process is to educate everyone about alternative vehicles to transfer wealth. You don't need to hire an attorney. But if this isn't done appropriately, you're going to need one later, or your family's going to hire an attorney because you failed to plan. So remember, the biggest wealth transfer is happening right now in real time. One article I was reading recently said that by 2045, 54 trillion with a T, dollars of assets will be transferring from one generation to the next. That's in the next 20 years. That's right around the corner. And so if you can plan now, while your parents are alive, while everyone is healthy and happy, do it now before it's too late. Because we have plenty of people come into our office and they say, "Oh, I just want to revise my mom's will." And I say, "Okay, no worries. Let me talk to mom." "Oh, I'm sorry. Mom's in the home. She's not doing well. She doesn't know who she is." And in the business, we say she's lost capacity. And so now we can't redo mom's will. Even if mom has a good day and she says, "Oh, I remember you, honey. I want to change my estate planning." If the day the attorneys show up, she doesn't have a good day. And in the business, we call this a moment of lucidity. If she's not having a good day at that time, we're not going to be able to change the estate plan. You're going to have to go through guardianship if there hasn't been an estate plan in place. And now your family, rather than helping your mom, your dad, your grandma, your grandfather through this difficult process of aging, you're now scrambling to come up with the money to pay the attorney's fees to do guardianship or other planning. So what I would recommend is everyone take some time to think through what's going to happen, not today, and not hopefully for a long time, but until Elon Musk, Bill Gates, or somebody figures out how we're going to live forever right now in 2025, unfortunately, we're all going to pass away. But we have the ability now to take control of our estate planning. Do you have a will? Do you have a healthcare surrogate? Do you have a power of attorney? Is it a durable power of attorney? Do you have a living will? What's going to happen to your properties when you pass away? What's going to happen to your 401k, your employment benefits, your IRA, your investment accounts, your brokerage accounts, your retirement accounts, your checking and your savings and your mutual fund accounts? What's going to happen to all these assets? Plan ahead, save your family a lot of time and importantly money, and try to minimize the amount of money going to third parties. That's a proper estate plan. So watch out for more videos as I continue to try to provide free education on estate planning, especially as we go through the next 10, 15, 20 years together and see how much wealth is being transferred from one individual to the next, and hopefully through some proper estate planning that they've minimized the amount of money that's going to third parties and maximize the amount of money that's going in the hands of family and friends that they intended. Thank you so much.